I went to the pursuit of truth. Well, I couldn't really not do one about the trial of the trial of Derek Chauvin, accused of murdering George Floyd. What interests me about it is the way that how the court proceedings take place, the system, as it were, how it tries people based on the idea of having two people giving you different stories, different tales of events. The defence said a story has two sides. I don't know whether that allegory is actually a factual allegory or it's just one of these romantic ones. I think if two people are telling the truth, then the story remains the same, but there may be difference of perception or difference of intention, but that doesn't make the story change. The story was always the same. The usual reason why a story does have two sides of the story is because one of them is not telling the truth and one of them is lying. And that's what we witness in court, where you've got two people saying different things, and thus it means that one of them is lying or misleading. And that's based on the idea that you have to give your client a fair trial, and even if you know he's guilty, you still have to defend him to the best of your ability. I don't know how it happens if you know someone's guilty and then you get them off. How do you sleep at night with that kind of thing? When you say all this, it makes you laugh, really. It's another one of these things as a child you think this makes no sense, and you get told, no, this is just the way of the world. I don't know if there is a better system than this, but it sounds so silly, this idea. I guess it's a shame that we can't, or maybe this isn't a good thing, but I'm thinking like it's a shame you can't get into people's minds and you can, relay what happened, a bit like, I guess that's like Ridley Scott's, what's that film called? Minority Report, to sort of get inside their brain and then reveal it, and then you could see the truth. You wouldn't need all this witnesses and arguing, all this kind of thing. You could just see their mind, their recording, instead of their body cam, their brain cam. But then again, that may not be accurate because your brain is not always accurate at recording things or remembering things, which is why you get different testimonies of witnesses and they tend to differ. So it just interested me, this idea that we accept that we're going to have one person telling the truth, one person lying, and we, the jury and the people, have to decide which one is telling more of the truth, or the truth, if you want to put it that way. And it just goes to show that when people, when these people who doubt conspiracy theories, I hate using that term, but when I use it, you know what I'm talking about. People say, well, people in power, people, with uniform, people with gowns or whatever, wouldn't lie. As if human beings can't lie. And yet in this court system where's the highest court in the land, where it decides whether a person could be executed, could be put in prison for his whole life, is based on this system of one of them is lying, isn't it? But it's just so clever because we've all seen the 9 minutes, 29 seconds and made our opinion. And, it seems very difficult to try and defend that action that seems undefendable. And yet it's clever how this person, the defence lawyer, has come up with, it's because he was drugged up or this, that and the other, that Derek Chauvin was just following his job, even though other police officers say that isn't part of the job training. But then if you get enough people that say, if you scour looking for one person who's in charge and says, yeah, it's okay, then suddenly you've got a case because you've got a defence. It's amazing how if he gets off with it, it'll be pandemonium, and I think that'd be the wrong decision. But it just goes to show how powerful the lie can be, that you can convince people, because when you go in there, you're meant to be, neutral, and I don't know how that's possible because everyone's seen that footage, and then decide based on the evidence given before you. But and that's difficult because then when you get, I think they said there's 2 autopsy reports. I don't know how that's possible, because if there was only one, that would make it a lot easier. I don't know if I've got that wrong or not. And therefore you can, but that's always the way with specialists. You can always get one specialist who will say this, one specialist who will say that. And then, well, how's that possible? How is it possible? Is it a lack of education? Is it a lack of knowledge? Or is it actually a willingness to lie? Or just because they're misled themselves and then they're not technically telling a lie, but they don't know they are, just due to ignorance, or I don't know. How do you get different specialists? Or maybe it's something so minute that you can, sway it one way or the other. But it's easy to do that, isn't it? If there is 2 autopsies, that's why, because the first one was probably not what the other person wanted to hear, and it's got someone else to do it and then come up with a different conclusion. And therefore that allows doubt of what seemingly, with human eyes, without any witnesses, witnessing what you saw in front of your eyes, no matter whether you knew training or not, whether you were an autopsy or not, what drugs he may have taken or not, the 20 fake dollar bill or not, just seeing that event roll out in front of you is enough to tell you that that's wrong, that life was taken. It has to have played a part in it. Even if he was having a heart attack, well, it would have been cause of that. I mean, the thing is that I've seen other bits now of the footage of them trying to put him into the car, and it does make me think, well, how what if someone is genuinely scared of claustrophobic or anxious, how do you treat them to make it nice for them and easy for them to get in, rather than, because obviously if you're anxious and you're claustrophobic, you might act out like that and resist arrest. Of course, in the UK, you wouldn't be killed for that, but in America, well, he was lucky he wasn't shot. And it just, I couldn't sleep much after seeing that footage, body cam footage of them trying to push him in, and then him on the floor, and then it looked like they were checking his pulse. I just don't understand why the others didn't say anything to him. I think they're just as culpable as Derek Chauvin, even the one standing in front, telling the people not to come, because none of them said, wait a minute, get off him. Even when the EMS people came, he still didn't get off him. That's, you can say that he was allowed to restrain the man because he was driving. They couldn't force him into the car, even though they did get him into the car and then took him out of it. But you can't say, wait a minute, when he was not moving, then you could have got him up and pushed him in the car if he was unconscious. And I don't know how EMS come. Do they phone them, or do they always come to everyone come? It looks like in America, fire, EMS and police all come to the same incident, effectively knowing that there may be someone who needs medical attention. I don't get that, but it stopped me sleeping, because I was thinking, if only George Floyd had just got into the car, then maybe he'd still be alive, if their intention wasn't to assassinate him, which it does look like that, because the man's just on his neck and seems to have no emotion. So I don't know, but it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't have to, even if you do resist arrest, which is your right as a human being, then you shouldn't be killed for that. Yeah, you can be restrained, you can be put in the off, not killed, not murdered. I don't know, I see the more that they talk about it, the easier I think it will be for, especially because it's slightly more white people than black people there, to be swayed into doubt, because you've got people looking with sincerity. That's the thing as well. 2 lawyers who look with sincerity, as if they would never tell a lie, that they're telling the truth to you, and it's up to you to decide. Well, how can 2 people be telling you the truth if they differ in what they're saying? And so that's what interested me. I think to me it shows another reason why, when people say that people in power can't lie, they wouldn't lie. They wouldn't keep that from you. It would be impossible. Well, you can see in the court system how that works. And then there was another thing recently with the Sarah Everard case, where the police did their own independent inquiry, I think it was the government actually, to whether they were right in how they handled it, how the police handled putting the women on the floor, restraining them and all that kind of stuff. And they found that was perfectly fine what they did. So and then the newsreaders, but when they get that, they then start talking in that way as if that means it's fact. If someone else has investigated and told you that this is right what was done, then that means it's right what's done, even though you saw with your own eyes and you can make your own judgment yourself. You don't need other people to tell you what to believe, but it seems to be that's the way it works, especially with the media. If the government says it's fine, then it means it's fine, and if anyone says it's not fine, you can just say, well, the government have investigated this and they found out that it was perfectly fine what was done, and that anyone who said it wasn't was totally wrong for saying such a thing. How dare they have their own free independent thoughts that differ from us when we're investigating, as if somehow it's independent. It's not independent at all. There's no such thing as independent, especially when it's police and government. It's exactly the same. So it's just another this idea of just, same with you had where the government have looked into whether any more UK's institutions are rigged or racist, institutionally racist, and they said they're not. But the problem is, it's not about institutions. Yes, the institution may not be rigged. They may not have a piece of paper that says you must not employ black people or this, that, and the other. But the problem is, the institutional part of the racism doesn't come from a building, doesn't come from bricks. It comes from human beings. It's human beings that are racist. And that's what we have to try and get rid of. And that's the thing that these reports will never understand. They will never say that, because you can't see inside of people's hearts and minds. But they're the people that are racist. That's where the racism is. It isn't in the institution. It's in the people who run the institution or part of the institution. And obviously, if they're investigated and they're asked, well, do you think you're racist? Well, no, I'm not racist. And yet they are racist. Well, obviously, then that's going to come out with a report that says, well, they're not racist. I mean, this whole idea of investigating independency is just a lunacy. It's like something out of George Orwell, just to... once it's written down on a piece of paper and they can read it out and it's come from some institution, like the police, like the government or whatever, then everyone then suddenly drops everything they've ever thought themselves for their own minds, seeing whatever they saw and their own morals and judgments, and just accepts that, oh, okay, then it was perfectly fine. And if you don't, then you're like the black sheep. You're like in Animal Farm, what's his name? The one that they I don't know if he is even real in the end, the one that they blamed everything on, just so that they could get away with all these things. Anyway, so I just think this is just more examples of the system that we live in is just not fit for purpose, for humanity. And this is just another few examples. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Take care, take it easy, God bless, and peace. Please leave your comments of what you think, or the videos. You can put videos. I'll try and put the clips of the prosecution video and events so you can see those things for yourself, so you can see that I'm not trying to sway your mind, even though am I doing the same thing actually? By me talking on here, am I trying to sway your mind? Am I doing exactly the same thing that I'm accusing other people of doing? Maybe through communication is the problem. Anyway, before I start to double think myself, take care. I've done that already, haven't I? Bye!